Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Staleman, and I'm glad to have you all here today for another Limbus Company late night stream. I attempted to stream yesterday. As a matter of fact, I did stream yesterday, but my OBS chewed my live stream, so I lost an hour of time talking about the weekly dungeon and such. I have Limbus Company booted up currently, but I actually wanted to start the stream talking about Project Moon's direction with the game, my thoughts on where it's going to be headed, and what could be done to, I guess, incentivize the player towards different facets of play. Hello. Hopefully you don't mind me going over this. I have their tweets lined up on my second monitor here in order to talk about the 3 avenues of play that they're creating. They recently released a tweet talking about their plans for endgame content, which was something that I talked to in the now scrubbed stream that failed to release. And I just have a couple of thoughts that I want to go over that you may or may not be interested in. Let me... All right, perfect. So, right now we have we only have one avenue of stream, or we only have one gameplay stream available to us, right? Which is the story and the mirror dungeons, right? Now, Project Moon understands that this structure of gameplay is not sustainable for a gacha game. Unless they are pumping out story updates every week or every other week, their expectation is that the mirror option here is going to retain the player's interest. Either they're going to engage with the mirror dungeons by doing 1 dungeon a day in order to take advantage of the weekly rewards that they earn, or they're going to, if you're a more fervent fan, engage in the mirror dungeon content more often. They're going to be performing the same content over and over again, and this leads to a risk of burnout within the character, so or within the players. So this story content here is it isn't repetitive. It is sort of a one and done experience. This is the peak structure, or the peak piece of entertainment that a player is going to be interested in if they are a devout PM fan, right? So story would, the positive for this would be that this is like the premium content that people are going into this game for. And the mirror dungeon is supposed to be a fun, repetitive alternative to whatever mechanical gameplay you perform in the story. So fun and repetitive. And at the moment, the game has been out for a little bit, right? And we can see that the mirror dungeons have a flow to them I talked about last stream that isn't engaging until you get to the 3rd floor, because the 1st floor of the mirror dungeon, you already have 3 of your possible 5 units built for a team. There's already a synergy there, and the enemies are starting at a lower level than you when you enter into the game. So you're building up your units at a faster rate than the enemy can provide you with a difficult encounter. And this remains the case from the first floor all the way to the beginning of the third floor, depending on your maneuvers through the mirror map. I will probably talk about this when we reach the actual dungeon stage, but I just want to get my thoughts out on this now. PM has already seen that this is an issue, because if the mirror dungeon is the only form of content that players are engaging with, they're going to find this mode of play very tiresome over time. Obviously, it's supposed to be repetitive. So they are planning to introduce thread dungeons, or threaded content, where you acquire thread content. And they are introducing XP content, right? XP content. So this isn't introduced yet, but this is meant to separate what the mirror dungeon is currently supplying the population with. The mirror dungeon supplies us with the threads that we need in order to, the ego shards that we need to create threads in order to upgrade our units, and the XP tickets necessary in order to handle the later content in the game. Really, it would be the story content, because there's no other avenue for our upgraded characters to influence the game at all, right? So, but why did PM separate these two? Well, for one, they want to have a different form of game engagement that isn't directly tied to the mirror dungeon, because mirror dungeons are time intensive, right? The thread content that they're introducing into the game is... where is it here? Experience Luxcavation and Thread Luxcavation. The Thread Luxcavation is we fight egos or abominations, right? Or abnormalities. There we go. So we are separating our mode of play towards the abnormality fights. And these would be fighting for example, an early one would be the golden apple, right? We would fight the golden apple in this content, and it is one abnormality fight per day. We would acquire our threaded content, or our ego shards in this location, and then we would continue. Think the world bosses. Are they considered world bosses? The premium bosses in Genshin Impact. The wolf, for example, right? Or the Animo bird. I don't know their names specifically. They're this, right? We're trying to diversify our gameplay loop so that we do not get bored of the core end game engagement in the mirror dungeon. We separated our threaded content towards specifically one abnormality fight per day, and the XP content is going to be like a random assortment of human fights that carry over from story to story. They stated this because they are going to reduce the amount of times that we need to do our mirror dungeons in order to acquire material from the mirror dungeons. I would say that this is a false comparison. They're giving us a chance to acquire lunacy with the mirror dungeons, but we have just separated our dungeon time towards the threaded content and the XP content. Because if everything is localized into the mirror dungeon, you're performing maybe 1 or 2 mirror dungeons a day, collecting your 10 tickets, eventually 3 tickets per, or 5 tickets per, 5 tickets of gold and silver, and you're collecting ego shards with the first 5 dungeons that you go into. You don't collect any additional ego shards after that. Now we have to contend with 3 mirror dungeons plus 5 of the threaded excavation content, plus an additional, what is it, three XP content, and this is 3 times per day. So this is 3 times per 7 days a week, right? Which would be, it equals what, 21? Yes, 21. So they're giving us more avenues to acquire our tickets and our threaded content, but it's not to lower the amount of time that we're playing the game. This is exponentially increasing the amount of time that we're engaged, which is good. They want to have people engaged in their game for as long as possible, and they are doing this with the limited mechanisms that they have available. Now, why am I talking about this? They recently released information that they are planning to provide a new avenue of play that is outside of this current mechanism, which would be the refraction railway. Refraction railway. Now, the refraction railway is unique in that it is the only other piece of content that you can play right now that is affected by levels. What do I mean by this? Well, the story content is affected by the levels of our characters. Right now, actually, I'm currently grinding mirror dungeons in order to get my core group to level 30 in order to handle the final dungeon in our story content. It is story chapter 3-22, right? This refraction railway is going to also be affected by the levels of our units. So that means that they're going to want us to engage in our XP content and in our mirror and threaded content to diversify our group of sinners and have strong sinners to contend with the challenges in the refraction railway. Specifically, if I can read directly from their press kit here. Greetings, dear manager. In an update projected for early April of 2023, the content of Refraction Railway Line 1 will be added to the game. Recommended level of entry is 30. So they're already giving us the incentive to start engaging and collecting XP tickets as quickly as possible in order to engage in what is going to be the endgame content that they want players to engage with. Refraction Railway Line 1 is a dungeon where you fight through specific encounters for various weekly rewards. In this content, your identity's current levels, uptie tiers, as well as the thread spin tiers of your egos will be carried in, as opposed to standard mirror dungeons. Refraction Railway Line 1 will serve as part of the endgame content for Season 1. In Refraction Railway Line 1, players will be challenged to strategize and build an optimal team out of the identities and egos they've collected and leveled to travel as far as they can, with corresponding rewards awaiting them. We intend to design high difficulty content in which you can test the limits of your identities and ego that have been built up and strengthened through mirror dungeons and excavations. Unlike the mirror dungeons that had roguelite elements, Refraction Railroad Line 1 is static. We plan to mix up its composition every month. This dungeon will purely consist of combat encounters against regular foes and abnormalities, with no events or ego gifts along the route. Entering costs and Keflin module after first entering the dungeon will be freely accessible for the rest of the week. You will choose a number of identities and ego to begin the expedition with. The dungeon consists of 13 combat encounters with progressively increasing difficulty. The enemy composition of each encounter is predetermined. The encounters will change every month. The HP and SP of your sinners will carry over between encounters. After clearing a number of encounters, a special event will occur to let you choose between healing your sinners or giving them buffs. If you lose a battle, your progress will be reset, and you may challenge the railway again from the beginning. Now, the listed adjustments are under development and are subject to change, so these are not finalized pieces of information. My initial thoughts on the Refraction Railway is that this is good endgame content, right? So this is good endgame content. But I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot by not addressing something else that can be done with the game that would be possible with the current mechanisms that they have, which is focusing on the importance of these mirror dungeons. So, what do I mean by this exactly? If the importance of the Refraction Railway is to test the capacity for our players to build teams to take on whatever specific challenge or composition the enemy or PM poses to us, then I believe that the mirrors or theme is to test our adaptability when facing off against challenges that are unknown to us. So this is supposed to test adaptability. And at the moment, it is not doing that function. Right now, what it is testing is our ability to create an initial team composition that we can maintain throughout the entire dungeon with the ego gifts that we're given, right? For example, when I start my encounter, I am given 3 ego gifts, and of the 3 ego gifts, I am going to choose the 3 ego gifts that best coincide with the characters that I have already provided up tiers to. Because characters that are up tiered to 3 specifically, are always going to be better than any other identity. So I would not focus on creating a composition with a tier 1 She Ishmael, for example. I would focus on the core team that I've been carrying through the story content, right? So I'm typically carrying something like Gregor, Rodion, Sinclair, these characters, right? Because I am carrying these characters through this content, I do not have to care about testing my adaptability. The adaptability that I'm being tested on is at best checking whether or not I'm going to nodes that offer sinners. So, nodes. Nodes that offer sinners. And really, ego gifts, right? I would argue that the ego gifts that are available in the game are generalized enough that we don't really need to care about this option, and we mostly care about getting at least a party of 5 available, at most a party of 4, core units that synergize well with one another in order to beat stage 3 of the dungeon, which is the strongest stage that you need to overcome. And I think that PM can go about differentiating the different themes of the content that they have available towards the challenges that they're trying to test. If this is supposed to test for challenge with the units that we have available and incentivize our ability to create competent team compositions, I want Project Moon to add a second form of this mirror dungeon, or maybe change how the mirror dungeon functions itself by including 2 key features. The first key feature, and one that would probably get a lot of, well, it might not even get a lot of blowback from the community outright, because the game is so new. They are allowed to transform their features. I mean, they're fundamentally changing what the Mirror Dungeon is going to provide, like, next week. So the first thing that I would want is I would want to have our character selection be limited to 1 unit. Now, the reasons why I want this limited to 1 unit is because, okay, let's do something like, so the reason why I want this limited to 1 unit is that now there are 4 units that need to be filled, which requires us to adapt 4 units, 4 random units require us to adapt our team composition to what is offered. This is very important if we're trying to emphasize the roguelite elements of the game. The ego gift that we're using, the ego gifts that were provided, the nodes that we're going through, they are meant to accentuate a variation in our team composition. And I find that the game gets more boring with the mirrors if you have the ability to choose the same 3 units to begin with. 3 units is enough in order to create a coherent team identity that you can then sort of ignore the other 2 units so long as they have enough of the same colors as you need. They're superfluous. They're not treated as important. They're not part of the core group identity unless you have a strong synergy with them. So limiting this to 1 unit at the beginning of the floor and having it so that the first floor is just a couple of nodes where you're going to acquire additional units, maybe have the player choose if they want to have more ego gifts at the start of the run, or if they want to have an additional unit present something along the lines of choice A can be 2 units, or choice B is 1 additional unit plus 1 ego, or 1 ego gift. This would provide additional replayability, and if we're thinking of this from a bottom line perspective, this will incentivize the number 2 want here, which is IDs being important. Now, PM has stated that they are not interested in commercializing their gacha system to a great extent. However, I think that the IDs in the game are being underutilized. And what I mean by this is, if this is supposed to test our adaptability, what better way to test the adaptability of our unit than by presenting us with, let's say it is a... They present us with a choice that is 1 unit with 3 identities. This could be something that they can adjust later in the game, where an event allows us to gain access to an identity that we wouldn't otherwise have. It would be treated as a up-tiered identity. So for example, if I have Ryoshu, I don't have her tier 3 unit or her tier 3 identity. I just have her 7 and her base. I would get an event that gives me Ryoshu, and it would select, hey, you can choose between base 7, or this third option. This is probably going to be something that they can do once they start releasing enough identities for the characters, right? I I am glad that you're attending these late night classes that I'm providing here, Christian. It I've been thinking a lot about this game and how best to have the players, or how best we can mix how best we can mix the incentive structure for PM to create more content that is engaging for the audience, and for the audience not to get bored over time. Because I'm comparing it to a gacha like Genshin, and Genshin has multiple ways of engaging their players. If we think of how Genshin engages their players by providing them with exploratory elements, right? Going around and collecting chests plus secrets, right? And then we have the dungeons that they can do. These dungeons being to acquire artifacts for their characters. We have the actual the actual quests themselves, which would be our stories for Limbus Company, right? Quests. And then we have dailies, right? There are different methods for the player to engage with the Genshin gameplay. And the Genshin gameplay remains the same. It is, use your preferred units to fight. But the amount of time that it takes for you to explore a given location is going to be lower in the amount of time that you have to invest into this over something like investing an hour towards this mirror dungeon, because that's typically how long it's going to take, just by virtue of how the game exists, right? I want PM to consider the various methods of gameplay that they have available to them. And if they are invested in the story structure, I want them to give the same consideration to the challenges that they're trying to present in the mirror dungeons and in the threaded content that they're going to be releasing soon, and in the EXP content, right? Because right now, the threaded content is just performing the abnormality fights that you can find at the end of the mirror dungeon. The XP content is the same as what you can do by repeating stages in the story content. Really, the only incentives on doing mirror, threaded, or XP content for us at the moment is the rewards that we're going to be acquiring. The Refraction Railway is not something that we're going to be experiencing until April. So this is a long way away for us to experience something new with the systems that they have available. These changes can be something that PM can consider in order to emphasize the importance of that adaptive roguelite appeal, right? I've played a number of roguelites. I've talked a lot about roguelites on my channel, and one of the emphasis or the important thing about having a roguelite is to stress the adaptability of a player. And at the moment, there's just not a lot of adaptability to engage with in the game currently. The game is new. The game has the capacity to change. So I am not perturbed by the idea that they will screw it up. I have faith in PM. I'm almost certain that they're going to consider changes to their model of play. I am just voicing my thoughts at the moment and what they are. Now that I've gotten my little lesson out of the way, I think that I can just go towards playing some Limbus Company. Oof. Alright, so where last we left our heroes here, I was currently grinding to get level 30 characters for the story content at the end of the game. Now, I have acquired a couple of new pieces to my Sinner board, right? Of note is that I have acquired the Tier 3 Mersault that was recently released with their banner. If we can go to their banner real quick. Their banner released N-Corp Grobhammer Mersault and N-Corp Mittelhammer Rodion. I have both. I acquired both through the third option that was available here. They provided a Tier 3 ticket to those that experience difficulties with the standard extraction, or not the standard extraction, with the welcome banner. The welcome banner stated that you can acquire a Tier 3 unit, and they didn't specify that it was either a Tier 3 unit or an ego, because PM assumed that they have the same relative importance within a given composition. I would argue that this isn't the case, that the Tier 3 unit is going to be more impactful on a team, and that you build a team around an ego. But the base egos that you have available are going to be going to be a strong build point than anything that you are provided, aside from maybe Pursuance Mersault, which is one of the requirements that I'd need in order to add him to my main unit of characters right now. I have Yi Sang, Rodion, Sinclair, Otis, and Gregor, all at varying levels of high 20s, to Gregor being my only level 30 unit. Once I have all of these units at level 30, I am finally going to go to the end of the stage of the Unconfronting and perform Branch K-02. I am very excited to get to this stage because I have listened to the soundtrack for the Sinclair fight. Well, I don't think that's a spoiler, because up until this point, you've been following like Sinclair's story here. There is a Sinclair fight, there's melee music in this fight, and it is phenomenal. I'm very excited to get to this point, but I don't want to get to this point until I have my levels at 30. It just makes sense to be as strong as possible when contending with something like this. I don't want to waste resources for no reason. So, we're back to our mirror dungeon grind. Alright, so this is what I talked about with our lesson. These egos, I don't really care for any of these, right? I think that today's expression is going to be the best one that we have available because it synergizes with our sloth usage. But Ashes to Ashes, I don't care about because only 2 units use burn at the moment, aside from the egos that you have available in Ardor, Blossom, Ishmael. And that's Liu Mersault and Liu Gregor, right? And I don't have either of those units uptied, so, well, I only have Mersault uptied. No reason for me to engage with this. And I don't have any Tremor units. I don't have LCCB Ishmael or LCCB Rodion, so it's going to have to be today's expression, just by virtue of process of elimination. But it's not going to affect my team composition because I'm going to go with Gregor, Sinclair, Yi Sang, because they have a nice synergy of the colored pips that I'd need in order to activate Sinclair's secondary ego with the Doomsday Clock, and Gregor's new primary ego with Ledger Domain. I'll show you in a moment. We go with our boy Yi Sang. Sinclair is going to be my second Blade Lineage Salsu. He has his Branch of Knowledge. And then Gregor here, we have our G-Corp manager. And we have access to either Suddenly One Day or Ledger Domain. I'm going with Ledger Domain for a couple of reasons. One, the pips that I would need would be Sloth and Gluttony, which my Corporal produces consistently. It's just a better ego to have on my character. Plus, the passive that I am provided is a lot stronger on... It's a lot stronger on him than it would be on anyone else. Plus, my sanity cost for this is reduced to 0. I gain access to Maggots, which increases bleed count and synergizes well with Rodion if we can find her later in the dungeon run. There's just a lot of benefits to using the Apple variant, the Apple ego, over suddenly one day. Right? I don't have many synergies for Wrath and Gloom at the moment with the current team composition that I have. Hopefully I'm providing you with a perspective, an idea of how I'm engaging with the game to the best of my abilities. I want to give PM the accolades that they deserve in creating engaging systems that I would like to pick apart. So here's where the game is, at least with the dungeon runs, it is at its most banal. I have no fear that my characters are going to beat the first 3 fights in the game. Which would then have me question, why am I doing these fights to begin with? It is an issue that I have with the difficulty of the game at the moment. I'm certain that they are going to be introducing a harder mode, a harder variant for the mirror dungeons, but that's not something that they have on their roadmap listed until May. So the mirror dungeons are sort of like fun content that you're supposed to perform that will eventually fall out of flavor, given time to play the endgame content. Honestly, I'm very excited for the endgame content, all comments aside on what I listed in the lesson that I started the stream with. Okay then. So after dealing damage with a pride or single coin, gain 1 offense. After dealing damage using single, if the target already has bleed, inflict 3 additional bleed. This is prioritizing lust skill units. I mean, this is just going to be the safest option available. I would like to take Grimy Iron Stake as well, but it's just one that has only 1 activation condition, while Late Bloomer's Tattoo has 2. Oh, something that I wish for them to add later into the UI element would be to add some section in the combat screen that provides the player with a list of the egos that they have available in a given fight. Just something at the bottom here for us to recollect, well, is my artifact triggering exactly? I know that they have little triggers that occur in combat, but if you're not paying attention to the combat screen, they sort of like pop in and out very quickly. Something to keep in mind. Something like this. See, they pop up here. Alright, so I was provided with Otis, Mersault, and Honglu. If I remember correctly, Mersault's secondary would synergize with having red units available for the passive. But I'm going to go with Otis because it guarantees that I have a party composition that synergizes with one another at 4. Because I want to prioritize having a synergy that I can level up over time across stage 2 to prepare me for stage 3. I am behind the 8 ball in terms of levels because, one, if we look at the map here, we only had 3 combat encounters. Or I'm not allowed to drag back. We only had 3 combat encounters, and one of those combat encounters offered me an ego instead of a level up, which means that I need to prioritize acquiring a level up node on tiers 2 and 3 if they're provided to me, so that I can reach parity with having all level 25 units for the end fight of the given dungeon. Come on. My boy. Wait, this isn't AoE. I'll save it for later. Alright, Sun Shower when activating Sloth Absolute Resonance. We're using a skill that attacks multiple targets. After damaging a non-staggered unit. Tremor, I don't... Wait a minute. This might actually be good. Because... I have Gregor, who gains an advantage on bursting Tremor on enemies with Ledger Domain. So I may actually take this over the lower activation condition of a Sloth Absolute Resonance. And I'm avoiding White Gospium. This is... I think that this Ego gift gets a bad rap from the community at the moment because it unstaggers enemies. Bleed is a good condition to have, and you can fish for additional healing on an enemy if they are not staggered, if you're attempting to clash with them. Because each time that you roll, you could be gaining health. It is something that I keep in mind when attempting to optimize my party. Here we have the ideal quintuplet team here, right? Now I don't have to worry about what my 6th unit is going to be, because I already have my core 5 for all 3 runs of the dungeon. I can do this, or I think this will be better. It's favored. This is. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh no. We got staggered here. Let's see if I can salvage the situation. It seems that I'll be able to. Oh. Okay, perfect.
좋은 전략입니다.
Oh, great. I got a grimy iron stake as opposed to acquiring what I wish I could have acquired, which was a level up. Okay, so one thing that I want to talk about real quick about these nodes that are available to us. This node is a more difficult encounter that we can perform that guarantees us an ego gift or a singular level up. I do not understand why they do not provide you with something more if they are going to increase the difficulty over doing something like an event, which doesn't require a greater amount of commitment to acquire something from them. There are certain things that PM does that I question is just, it amounts to an esotericism. I just don't know why they would structure things this way. But then again, they didn't have the benefit of a beta to build the game off of. They sort of just push themselves into the position of making a game. Let's use this, because I haven't used it before. And I'm bursting Tremor as well. Okay, perfect. So I bursted his Tremor here. I don't think we're going to be able to see the... I don't think that I'm going to be able to see the maggots that are placed onto an enemy with Gregor until I get to the third floor. Something that I'm curious to see what the... I know that there is a % chance based off of the Gluttony Absolute Resonance amount. Something that I'm curious to see how often it trigger. So we got a level up here, but we're not really incentivized by the game to perform or to go to these more difficult nodes and risk losing health for what is ostensibly a reward that you can also acquire from the base rewards. I think that EM can incentivize us to do elite rewards by giving us access to maybe an additional level up, or a level up and a gift, a level up and health, something along the lines, in order to make going to these nodes a necessity. Something similar to Slay the Spire's elite system, because you are incentivized to build up your strength towards fighting those elites in order to acquire the ego gifts that give you the strength necessary to beat whatever you're going to encounter at the end of the stage. As you can see, I've been thinking about this game a lot. Let's see here. So I am going to show why performing that elite encounter is inferior to just going towards a event encounter within a given dungeon run. You just first have to beat these goons. So you're doing fine. I think that I can beat you with this. I can definitely beat you with this. We're doing fine. Alright, perfect. We staggered the enemy there. And she's winning her backlash here. Perfect. So you could potentially win, or do I have... Nope, I don't have means necessary. We're gonna do this. You can do... You have a greater chance of winning by doing this.
명령대로 하겠습니다.
See? And if you have questions, please drop them down in the comments. I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you have about the game and the thought process that I go to when I'm thinking about the game.
망설임이 없도록.
Okay, right, I win this one. Okay, so I'm gonna win all future encounters. I didn't roll. If you've played Library of Ruina, and you know the comparison between the clashes that you can perform in Library of Ruina and the sort of heads, tails that you can perform here, I highly prefer the heads, tails system. It just feels a lot more dynamic, a lot more impactful. Hearing the bell click every time that I get a correct head flip is just... It hits the head right, you know? It sort of... It triggers a dopamine rush. It's also a lot snappier.
흉터의 결과요.
Okay, we get another level up here. We're gonna level up the individuals that we're currently using. And now we're going down at the bottom.
별일 수 있는 기회겠죠?
Here we're starting to see that because of how small our level up provisions have been at this point in time, we're starting to reach parity in levels to our enemy, which means that we are going to be taking a sizable amount of damage from the enemy if we're not careful. I will win all the time with this ability. I can win all the time with this ability.
죄를 새겨주겠어.
When I say something like I will win all the time, what I'm saying is that whether they have a head or tails in a given roll, I am always going to win the encounter because my low roll will be equivalent to their highest roll. I think that that'll work.
혈이 난다. 흉터의 결과요.
That's a win. That's a win. Perfect.
될수 있겠죠?
And that means that Otis avoids taking damage here. Just
명령대로 하겠습니다.
ram it all in.
좋은 전략입니다.
Right then. So we're going with Sinclair. T as the ego. And now here we're going to reach the event and the sort of crux of my argument with doing events over elite or risky fights. So, with this event, it is asking us, hey, do we want to reach for its hand or refuse it? Reaching for its hand, I've done this event before, provides us with an ego gift. So everyone loses SP, not really anything that we need to worry about since we're all at 45 here. We're provided with a Phantom Pain ability. So we are increasing the amount of damage that we're dealing to a single target. And this is very strong. I don't think that I have to argue with that. And we didn't need to do a fight. We didn't lose anything other than SP here, which we can regain in a given conflict if we're winning clashes. It's just, there isn't a wider incentive for us to do an elite fight aside from just we are forced to do so. It's a gripe that I have with the current mirror dungeon convention. We'll typically win that fight. We'll always win this fight. Always win. I could do this.
명령대로 하겠습니다.
Because I'm trying to avoid having Otis enter into a clash, because her stagger bar is right at her health. If she takes any damage, he's going to be staggered for a given turn. That's not something that we want at the moment.
명령대로 하겠습니다. 배워냈어요.
And with this, the fight's done. Not necessary. This will be good, because I'm incentivized to do Gluttony Absolute Present. It'll be this. Because I don't have to worry about building my full team, because I already have a team comp available. I can just focus on what passives do I want to have that synergize with the colors that I have available on each given sinner. Their sin affinity, as the game would suggest. Going with Mersault here, because his sin affinity with Robhammer is Wrath, the red affinity, and it allows me to apply one attack power up and one protection to the ally with the lowest health, which means that the ally with the lowest health is going to be able to clash more consistently, and if they're clashing more consistently, then that means that they're taking less damage. And they're going to be taking less damage overall because their protection is low, or their protection is increased. Which really means that Otis is going to have greater clashing capability, because she has the lowest amount of health available in our group at the moment. Oh, I didn't know that you could see your dungeon from up above. So we are incentivized to go to here, so we can do something. This node, the Abomination, Mystery, Fight, Heal, because we have a couple of people that are lower on health. Heal, Fight, get 3 level ups here, and do our dungeon. Because there is no method of accessing this location aside from getting it. And I don't need the heal.
그대, 이 검이 필요하오.
Hello, Jin. What are you doing? You having a good time? Alright. That clearing cut will always win. Gold Blade is dominant win. Hack will... No. It's member wall. Still turn or likely to win. Ugh. I hate when that happens.
혈이 난자오.
명령대로.
Not bite the cable.
순조로운 전략입니다.
Here, best. I don't really need to worry about it.
명령대로
They're all
하겠습니다.
staggered.
흉터의 결과요.
역시 모르네.
좋은 전략입니다.
Now, probably have done Otis because Otis would have
단테,
any stem, but
이번에는 누굴 베어버리면 되는 거야?
I'll drop you. Alright then. I need one green. They're going to be targeted by you. Doing this with this not being targeted by anyone. I could peel. Oh. And target. Yep, that'll work. And you're doing imperfect mutation. You just do damage to another enemy, and that'll be preferred.
명령대로.
순조로운 전략입니다.
Hi, Jim.
배워냈어요. 흉터의 결과요.
Can I not gain access to? Oh wait, I didn't. No one used the green, so of course I didn't get it. This.
명령대로 하겠습니다.
Alright, now that I've gained access to this skill, I am partially using this as a test because I am curious to see the Maggot's ability take effect.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데.
순조로운 전략입니다.
I realize he might die before I can even test the ability. Yeah, he's gonna die here.
이봐, 버틸 자신 있어?
Oh, rip. I don't think that I'm gonna be able to test that until I reach the end dungeon of the story. Or maybe the final boss fight of this encounter, or of this dungeon. Okay, any stem? now available. Now I have a secondary source of AoE damage. Okay, so this is the blue star, the radiance. Have that color, the earth tearing you apart. I don't know way to go with this. I think forward would damage my units, but I gain access to Ego Gift. The backward maybe does something else. So units without... Oh, okay, so we gain access to level up. And only Gregor is affected because everyone else has a pride skill. Oh, that's really strong. Oh, if I'm gaining a level up here and I'm gaining another level up in the end, then we don't even need to worry about level ups for the rest of the encounter that we're in this dungeon. We're just going to reach the cap that we need to. Well, isn't that fantastic? Alright, this is going to be a particularly difficult fight. Let's see. Because a lot of these enemies are really good at clashing. If you've been to Chapter 3, you'll know what I mean. You're gonna gain... This will be fine. This is going to be a struggle, and I don't have access to my ego. Gonna be neutral. Do this, and this will work.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데.
So I won the fight here, luckily. So I lost the fight down here as expected. Yep. Gonna win this fight. This one. I can win this one. Doing this one is fine. And this should kill. Perfect. And I won the clashes against all of the other enemies. Perfect. Green, orange. Maybe. Let's do 3 blues. 2 blues, green, red.
망설임이 없도록. 좋은 전략입니다.
그렇게 무르진 않네.
혈이 난자오. 다음번에는 뵐 수 있겠죠? 다음번에는 뵐 수 있겠죠?
Alright, from here, the enemy is staggered, so we don't really have to worry about anything else. Gregor is already healed to max by his abilities alone, so perfectly fine if you're in an event, if your players or if your sinners have some sort of self-heal, where you have an ego gift that provides you with healing. Taking damage isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. Especially when we consider the fact that we're getting a healing node right now. And now our Otis is fully healed.
그대, 이 검이 필요하오.
For those that have been sticking around so far, thank you for sticking around. I am going longer than I expected. I'm probably going to cut the stream once I'm done and potentially post my Limbus company rant at the beginning of the stream as its own separate video. But thank you. I have greatly enjoyed my Limbus company time with you all. And I don't have
명령대로 하겠습니다.
제대로 들어갔습니다.
You're nearly dead. Okay. Okay, well, we have the benefit of our ego here.
명령대로. 이봐, 버틸 자신 있어?
Because it's blunt, they're all taking fatal damage.
결과요.
Oh, I might be able to see the maggots in effect. So I need to connect as many green nodes, but I don't have...
죄를 새겨주겠어.
순조로운 전략이
I don't have enough greens here. Maybe this is a switch... Okay. Botany resonance.
배는 맛은 있는
Maybe
편이
this is just
좋은데.
like I need more green resonance nodes available. Oh, there's maggots. And there,
좋은 전략이
and he's didn't even get to see it in
역시
effect.
모르네.
It could just be something that I can see in boss fight. What is it level? And now that we're acquiring this node here, everyone's gonna be at level. Well, 3 people or 2 people are gonna be at level 30. 1 person is gonna be at level. Or Rodion can be at level 25. 2 people are gonna be at level, which would be Gregor and Isang, because they have the highest growth values of all of the sinners in the game so far. Their growth value is something like 0.86. Growth value here would be the amount of damage that they deal when they're doing a given skill. At level 30, they have a higher rate of damage that they deal per skill used versus other sinners.
벼릴 수 있는 기회겠죠?
I'm curious to see what boss I end up with. I'm indifferent on this one, to be quite honest with you. I think this one is okay. The one that I care for, but I can do this. I'm probably going to kill the enemy with that.
명령대로 하겠습니다.
혈이 남자 흉터의 결과요.
이겨버리겠어.
Yep. And with that dead, I just guarantee a heal on all of my units, and I now have access to the affinity passive that Sinclair provide. which if you don't know, is probably one of the strongest egos in the game. The passive here is after defeating an enemy with an attack counter skill, gain 5 ego resource of that skill's affinity. It allows you to pump a lot of ego very quickly. Well, do something like that. Yeah, these are the strongest ones. Something like that. You're not being targeted by anyone, are you? Sure.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데.
이봐, 버틸 자신 있어?
그렇게 무르진 않네.
We're probably going to see the effects of maggots in the next fight. Probably.
배는 맛은 있는 편이 좋은데.
좋은 전략입니다.
흉터의 결과요.
Well, I get ebony. One more. I'm incentivized to do this again.
명령대로.
Perfect.
이봐, 버틸 자신 있어?
Oh, it didn't hit anyone else. I wonder why. Some of the AoE effects in this game have been interesting. It appears to be that they're localized to a given area on the battlefield. I'm not sure how you would go about incentivizing a given, like, attack. I could always... What happens if I do an ego again?
일등대리 그레고로.
Sanity is at 25. It costs 10 per. Okay. And it's not necessary. I don't have enough greens yet.
명령대로.
Oh, great. That gives me an additional whole bunch of reds.
좋은 전략입니다.
망설임이 없도록.
That's you.
허리 쓴다.
This is the last wave, which means that I can just go all out. Do something like this. Like this. This. Not like it really matters too much. Let's go with something like that.
명령대로 하겠습니다. 승리를 위해서라면
this targets 3 enemies. I'm thinking that it targets the enemies in a line. Ice chunk on Otis. Otis is nearly dead, but it doesn't really matter at this point.
이봐,
Who do you target?
버틸
How
자신
many?
있어?
Okay, so I target 2. Probably like the front group that I hit.
망설임이 없도록. 다음번에는 될 수 있겠죠?
Alright, we're about to win this fight.
망설임이 없도록.
버리겠습니다.
And with this, we have successfully completed our mirror dungeon. As I had stated earlier in the stream, mirror dungeon is about an hour of play.
관리자님 덕분에 승리를 거둘 수 있었습니다.
So I gained 60 experience, 3 nodes to my battle pass. This is subject to change come with the changes next Wednesday. We're going to be gaining 20 battle experience weekly from our week reward. And then I don't know how much battle experience we're going to be gaining when those week rewards are. And then the upgrade tickets are going to be gone given the changes with the excavation system.
잠 안 와?
Right,
나랑
from
포커
here,
한판 칠래? 해잡으로.
acquired a whole bunch of battle pass goodies. And now we can level up some of our units. Otis, chief among them. This. This will work for now. So now she's at level 29. And I'll have Rodion at... I can get her to level 29. I don't think I will. Or, yeah, I can't reach it. I can. I just needed to use 20 or 16 training tickets won. And with this, I have as close to a complete group for the dungeon run for the chapter as I'm going to get. As to be quite frank, I do not want to run another mirror dungeon just to get 5 tickets to maybe boost one person. I think that this is a fine level to be at to take on that last chapter. So I will probably save that last chapter for stream, as I had been building it up to this point. But otherwise, thank you everyone for sticking to the stream. Hopefully it wasn't a meandering mess. And I hope that you have a nice rest of your evening. Goodbye and good luck.